What's up, guys? Tim Little. Welcome back to TacticalBassin. Today is a beautiful, warm winter day. Matt just did a video on what to do, what baits to throw on your post-frontal bluebird skies, windy, cold, miserable days, right? Well, today is the flip side. Today, it's warm out. I mean, it's almost t-shirt and sandal weather here, and it can throw you a little curveball. You know, in a couple days, these mountains back behind us is going to have snow on them. So today I want to talk to you guys about kind of our day and a handful of baits that will help produce fish on these warm winter days. You know, all across the country, typically you will have warm spells. You have warm weather, you know, that aren't characteristic for your area, and that's what we have today. We have an awesome California warm winter day, and threw us a little curveball. So we started throwing big baits. That's the number one thing. You know, wintertime, you can really hone in on your big baits. Throw them, but you're not going to get a lot of bites. The bites you do are typically going to be bigger, but you're not going to get a lot of them. So the first thing we did today was check the big bait bite to see if it was there. And it was apparent very quickly that the fish weren't shallow and weren't coming up for the baits. I mean, we didn't have any followers, didn't see any fish. It was just very apparent that the early spring, that big bait bite was just not there. Even though it feels like springtime, it's still wintertime to these fish. So we eliminated that first. And then we started looking for fish, and we found fish in that 40 to 60 foot range, and we switched to finesse. Right off the bat, we went to the jig. You know, a jig is it's a larger profile bait, and it's something that can get down to the fish quickly. And we put the hammer to him with the jig. You just saw Matt catch that one. But even though these fish aren't coming up and being aggressive up shallow, they're still eating, right? So we don't want you to beat your head against the wall and just have a bad day on the lake. Eliminate the big bite or the big bait bite, and then switch to finesse. Start with a jig. Jig is super universal. You can match whatever colors you need to match the forage in your lake, and you can fish it in that 25, 30, 40, all 50, 60 feet, however deep you need to. And that's where we started. Caught a lot of fish on the jig, and it a lot of times, even though the fish were deep, they were very aggressive. As soon as the bait got down, or just before the bait got down, we were getting bit. So even though the fish weren't coming up, they were still aggressive down deep. So try a jig. Another bait that I quickly grabbed out of the rod locker today was the Dropshot. Where the Dropshot shines this time of year, when you're covering a lot of water, or you're moving across the point like we are here, and all of a sudden you look down at your electronics and there's a school of fish down in 30 to 60 feet, you take a Dropshot and you can drop it right down there on their heads. You don't have to fire it out and just guess and check and see if there's fish there. You see them, you drop down to them, and you can sit there and shake that bait in front of their face and get them to commit. Dropshot, I mean, you can switch up your baits. Today, we're actually throwing a 6-inch robo worm. It's a worm that's got a lot of movement to it. So when we're shaking it, we're targeting those aggressive fish, right? It's not a bait that just sits there. It's going to have a lot of movement, and I think that helped out a lot today.
Took a long time to get this Niko down in 60 foot of water.
So I'll talk about the Niko Rig since he just stuck a fish on it. The Niko Rig is the bait that you fire out on your long tapering point or an island top, something like that. You fire that out there and let it fall. That's actually my rod. I have that rigged up with a tungsten nail weight in it. And I've shot a in-depth Niko Rig video before, but I really like that tungsten head because it is still that same profile, but it's heavier, so you can fish it in the deeper water. I mean, right now we're sitting in, how deep are we?
Right now we're sitting 50.
Right now we're sitting in 50 feet. He just caught that fish 50 out of 50 feet. But the Niko Rig, I have this paired up with a 5-inch Senko. And again, I've done a specific video on Niko rigs that I'll link up above. But this is a 5-inch Senko. It's got that tungsten nail weight in there. And you can fish it in that 25, 30, 40, 50, 60 feet and still get that worm profile. This is a bigger profile. It just has more drawing power. When you get it down there, you can shake it and has a lot of action. So those aggressive fish that are down deep commit to the Niko rig. And it's a special technique. It really is. Again, it's kind of that crosses that finesse line with the jig and stuff, but it's a bigger profile and you can get big bites on it. So we tried the big swim bait bite. It didn't work. But you guys, we've talked about the little 2.8s, the Kitex on the little guppy head. This is a must-have. This is another bait that you fire out. You fish it the same way you would a big swim bait, but the fish that won't necessarily commit to the big bait or the glide bait, they will just swim over and eat this. It's not too big of a meal for them. It's not too much work for them. So it's a happy medium between the big baits and that swim bait bite. But the Kitech on a 2.8 or the 2.8 Kitech on a guppy head is a phenomenal finesse bait. And fish this out, fire it out there. If the fish are on bottom like they were for us today, let it hit bottom and then just creep it. The rod will load up, and a lot of times this will trigger the fish into a feeding frenzy, and you can catch multiple fish on succession. Now the last bait that I want to talk to you guys about is the Ned rig. On the spectrum today, we went with the big bait, then we went all the way down to the Ned rig, and it's got the least action out of any of the baits that we threw today, the winter time. But this is a must-have. We've done videos on the Ned before, but this thing is such a do-nothing bait, but it works and it catches big ones. Again, you're gonna fish. You could fish this vertically if you want. If you want to replace a drop shot with this, you could drop this down and let it sit there and let the fish eat. I find that it's easier to cast out island tops, long tapering points, and drag it back to the boat. You don't want to shake it. You don't want to have a lot of action with this guy. You just kind of want it to sit there, and those fish that are feeling the winter, they are feeling the cold, will just come over and just eat it. But we had a great day today. It's been a lot of fun. Again, it feels like springtime, but don't get caught up. Don't let that warm weather, the warm spell, mess with you this winter. Start off, check the big bait bite quickly. If it's apparent that they're not active for that, switch to an active finesse bait, a jig or a drop shot, something like that. And then if you find that they're not committing to the more active finesse stuff, go down the spectrum to your less aggressive finesse baits, guys. We hope that you guys learned something. If you guys like this video, hit the like button. Remember to subscribe to our channel. We're doing 3 videos a week for you. We appreciate you guys. Have a good one.